PepsiCo, the second largest food and beverage company in the world, has signaled they're on board with Health Secretary RFK Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again movement. Crunchy granola people like myself are cheering. Last week, RFK Jr., along with FDA Commissioner Marty Makary, announced that the United States has set in motion a plan to phase out dyes used in processed foods that, at best, add no traditional value and, at worst, are harmful to Americans. From CNN, the FDA says it's going to phase out petroleum-based food dyes and authorize 4 natural color additives. Let's read the beginning of that headline again. The FDA wants to phase out petroleum-based food dyes. Why do we have food dyes made of petroleum in the US? RFK Jr. explains the pipeline in regards to a yellow dye called tartrazine.
What you may not know is that this dye was originally made out of the sludge that's left over when you turn coal into coke for blast furnaces. It's called coal tar, and I've actually sued many big industries for legacy contamination of coal tar all around the country because it's so toxic and it's so harmful to the environment and human beings. A century ago, it was just an obnoxious industrial byproduct that everybody was trying to figure out ways to get rid of. One of the ways that they did that was by paving roads. But then a British chemist figured out that the coal tar could be used to derive fabric dye. And if fabric dye, why not food? Food manufacturers began using it to cover up the discoloration of low-quality foods that they wanted to pass off on unsuspecting customers.
The FDA is initiating the process to revoke the authorization of 2 synthetic colorings, citrus red 2 and orange B. Then the FDA hopes to work with the industry to remove green 3, red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, and blue 2 from the national food supply by the end of 2026. Makary said he hoped that the agency could do so via its good relationships with American companies as opposed to mandates and regulation or legislation.
I believe in love, and let's start in a friendly way and see if we can do this without any statutory or regulatory changes, but we are exploring every tool in the toolbox to make sure this gets done very quickly.
He was proved right on Monday when PepsiCo announced they're going to lead the industry transition towards natural colors. They vowed to remove artificial colors from popular food items by the end of this year. PepsiCo is the parent company of Lay's, Quaker, Gatorade, 7-Up, Doritos, Cheetos, Tostitos, and the rest of these household name brands. This will be an absolute game changer for the average American supermarket. These dyes are found in things we ingest every day: candy, breakfast cereal, yogurt, sports drinks. While these dyes don't affect taste, the bright colors are obviously to make the products more appealing to consumers, especially young children. A lot of the food containing these dyes is already banned in other countries due to potential health concerns, including, but not limited to, hyperactivity in children. Meanwhile, America is either ingesting these chemicals or handing them to our kids. In Canada, although some dyes are still in circulation, many versions of the same foods are less artificial than they used to be, like the difference between American Fruit Loops and Canadian Fruit Loops. The Consumer Brands Association, which represents companies like Nestle, PepsiCo, General Mills, claims that the additives it uses have been rigorously studied following an objective science and risk-based evaluation process and have been demonstrated to be safe. But it seems PepsiCo realized that consumers are demanding natural, and they had to adapt. The more consumers become aware of potential toxins and what they're eating, the more they're craving organic, non-inflammatory alternatives. Ramon Laguarta, PepsiCo's chairman and CEO, said on a Q1 conference call, "When we talk about the US food business, 60% plus of our portfolio today doesn't have any artificial colors. So we're undergoing that transition," he said. For example, brands like Lay's will be out of the artificial colors by the end of this year, and the same with Tostitos, some of our big brands. So we're well underway. So we're seeing these food companies naturally reform. About a decade ago, this issue was relatively fringe, though. In fact, it was an issue mostly important to suburban women on the left. So what happened between then and now? Well, for starters, when COVID locked everyone in their homes, people started paying attention to what they were ingesting. It's no coincidence that the sourdough bread baking trend really exploded over COVID, when everybody was spending a lot more time at home. More moms than usual became more interested in what their kids were learning in school, spoiler alert, gender ideology and critical race theory, but also what they're eating. One thing led to the next, and now the would-be almond moms and crunchy Karens are now MAHA moms, and turns out they were right about a lot. These women were a huge part of Trump's ultimate winning coalition, former hippie liberals that turned to the right. RFK Jr. made this movement his own when he ran for president 2 years ago. He ran on a platform of solving the chronic childhood disease epidemic. And since then, he's gone from Democrat to independent to MAGA.
And don't you want a president that's going to make America healthy again?
Trump realized he'd need RFK Jr. supporters, so he came up with MAHA, that is, Make America Healthy Again, a spin on Make America Great Again, bringing Kennedy on the Trump train and promising to appoint him as HHS secretary.
Hey everyone, I'm here today to tell you how we can make America healthy again. And the first thing you need to do is get one of these hats, and we need everybody walking around and wearing it everywhere they go.
RFK believes something, or several somethings, between the 1960s and now have altered the health of American children, and Kennedy has devoted much of his adult life to figuring that out. Remember, he was a darling of the environmentalist left years ago. As an environmental lawyer, he clashed with the energy sector, pork and poultry producers, and the United States military.
So we're going to let him go wild for a little while, then I'm going to have to maybe rein him back. Because he's got some pretty wild ideas, but most of them are really good, I think.
But Kennedy's decision to take on the food dyes and other additives has merit. Actually, eradicating these dyes was a goal at HHS way before RFK took over. In January, at the end of the Biden admin, the FDA, which was then led by Xavier Becerra, declared they would be phasing out red number 3. According to a food, drugs, and cosmetics law from 1960, the FDA must ban food additive or color additives if they've been found to induce cancer in humans or animals. 2 studies showed that exposing rats to high levels of red number 3 leads to cancer. And this chemical has been widely used in food, cosmetics, and medicines since 1969, but will be out of circulation by 2028. Thank goodness. So one could argue RFK Jr. is just continuing, dare I say, expanding the Biden FDA legacy. And Biden isn't the only Democrat phasing out food dyes. In early 2024, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed the California School Food Safety Act, which banned the same 6 dyes from meals, drinks, and snacks served in the state's public schools. The act came after a report from the California EPA found that consumption of synthetic food dyes can result in hyperactivity and other neurobehavioral problems in some children, and that children vary in their sensitivity to synthetic food dyes. I never thought I'd be applauding California, but look, the Make America Healthy Again movement is a movement that transcends party lines. So bravo, California. And bravo to West Virginia, where Governor Patrick Morrisey recently signed into law a ban on these 6 unsafe dyes, plus Red 3 from the state's public school nutrition sales beginning August of this year. RFK Jr. was there to congratulate the governor.
I got to know, I said to Dr. Morris, or Governor Morrisey, the first time I saw him, I said, "You look like you ate Governor Morrisey."
But in all seriousness, getting states on board, even one by one, is very helpful to the MAHA movement. According to The Atlantic, since states began taking up the food dye issue in earnest, the industry has complained that differing state laws for food dyes would make it more difficult to run their businesses. The Consumer Brands Association said that a state patchwork of differing laws creates confusion for consumers, limits access to everyday goods, deters innovation, and increases costs at the grocery store. So hopefully, as more states opt into dye-free snacks for children, companies will realize it's easier to just make the switch. It looks like that's what PepsiCo plans to do. That's what FDA Commissioner Makary means when he says he hopes for very little government interference. Makary say, hey, these companies can use natural dyes from beets, carrots, watermelons. Part of the FDA's rollout of this strategy includes fast-tracking the review of some of these alternatives to synthetic dyes. I find it unlikely they're going to find any problems with carrots. These natural alternatives include Galdiera extract blue, a pigment derived from microalgae, butterfly pea flower extract, another blue. So after they tackle the dyes, what's next for RFK Jr. and the MAHA movement? Looks like anything is up for consideration. The Trump administration is being very aggressive across a whole sort of issues, including the border. That was Trump's original campaign promise. A judge in Wisconsin was recently arrested for obstructing ICE from detaining an illegal alien who was accused of domestic assault. For more on that, click here.